if I'm grocery shopping, what is the quickest way to create my grocery list so that I snake through the grocery store specifically the right way without having to double back? And when I do have to double back, I get frustrated because in my mind it's a waste of time when really it's like less than a minute or two to go back a couple aisles and grab something. Hello, and welcome to Enter the Nebula, episode 31. My name's Mike Ergo, and this week we're talking about eliminating waste. But before we jump in, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, as this will be my last episode until July 10th. So we're going to take a couple week break. We've got a family vacation coming up, the 4th of July holiday, and then we'll get right back into the newsletter on July 10th. So don't fear, we're not going anywhere, just taking a quick summer break. Now, this week though, we're talking about eliminating waste. And when I sat down to write the article, I started writing about eliminating waste as it pertains to organizations and companies. And then I thought, no, that's not really the direction that I want to take this week's episode. I wanted to focus more on personal life and how we eliminate waste in our own lives. And then if we want to, or if somebody wants or is interested in learning more about how to do that on an organization level, please reach out, because that may be something that my current company E Plus can look at, or I can point you in the direction that you're looking to go into myself if it's at a high level. So this week we're going to focus on eliminating waste, but focus on it on more of a personal level, and understanding that we're looking at it from a perspective of a Lean Six Sigma black belt. I have my Lean Six Sigma black belt, but I'm also one that is wired this way. So what I mean by that is, ever since I was a kid, it didn't matter what we were doing. If something was inefficient, it bothered me. Uh, and I've had to, over the years, realize that that's not necessarily the norm. Not everybody thinks like me, and not just in this scenario, but in all scenarios. And I think that's a future article too, to talk about how it's very interesting and a great skill to start to think of things from other people's perspectives and anticipate how other people think. But for me, the way I think, when I set to mow the lawn, every time I mow the lawn, I try to think about if I could start in a different way, or if I could do a different pattern, would it be quicker? Or would it make the lawn look better? If I'm grocery shopping, what is the quickest way to create my grocery list so that I snake through the grocery store specifically the right way without having to double back? And when I do have to double back, I get frustrated because in my mind it's a waste of time when really it's like less than a minute or two to go back a couple aisles and grab something. But that's on a very micro granular scale. So what I'd like to do is take that skill that I have and that mindset and potentially give some ideas to the listeners here as to how, on a bigger scale, potentially you can make your life a little bit more efficient, and how you can start to evaluate maybe ways that you can free up some more time in your life to do things that you want to do. Because for me, that's the goal. The goal in eliminating waste is to get time, and time is valuable. So to start, the first thing is you have to identify whatever you're looking at. Does it just impact you, or does it impact others? And I think that that's important, even before you really identify if it's waste or not, to identify whether it's just impacting you or others. Because if it's impacting others, there's a different way that you're going to want to go about it. Because you may look at it as waste, but again, thinking at it from other people's perspective, it may be a meaningful activity for someone else. So you have to be sensitive. Now, if it's like me and it's grocery shopping and I'm the one grocery shopping, who cares if I'm making a different way to go through the grocery store or structuring my grocery list a different way, it's only impacting me. So I can experiment and do trial and error as much as I want because no one else is being impacted. So that's step one, really looking at, is it just me or is it others? For the purpose of this, we won't go into all the change management things and stuff if other people are impacted. If we're talking about a scenario where somebody could be impacted, we're just going to make the assumption that they're bought in. The second step is to really think about whether it is truly waste. Because if you're eliminating it and it's an activity or it's a process that you're trying to make faster, like maybe you want to do laundry quicker, or maybe you don't want to do laundry as much, or maybe you feel like you're constantly going to the grocery store and you'd like to be at the grocery store once a week. That's where my my family was at for a while, as we would go grocery shopping and then we would forget stuff and then we'd have to go back and then we'd forget more things. So we'd have to go back and we'd end up spending more money because of the multiple trips than if you had just maybe planned ahead for the week. So you really have to look at what are you doing is it waste? And part of that is a gut. Part of that is also starting to evaluate how much time you're spending on something and really do some analysis. We're talking about the DMAIC process, but we're going to keep the DMAIC process out of this talk because it's very structured and it can be more tailored towards something that you would be doing in an organization. For here, I want to just keep it at a very high informal level. So when you're looking at it, eliminating waste, again, it's more of an exercise in your head. And one of the exercises in your head that you can look at is asking yourself why. And the five whys are something that, if you've heard of them, are very helpful. And it's literally just asking yourself why 5 or more times to get to a root cause of what's going on. So the example I had uh, to talk to you about or illustrate the 5 whys is, maybe there's a scenario where you're spending too much time or you feel like you're spending too much time scrolling on social media. Well, ask yourself, I want to stop spending time scrolling on social media. Why? Well, I want to spend more time reading books instead of just doom strolling. Okay, why? Maybe you think reading some books will be more helpful in your career. Okay, well, why? Well, I'm not necessarily happy where I'm at personally or professionally, and I'm trying to get better. Why? Well, there's some opportunities I've missed, and I want to make sure that I want to hit them next time. Right? That's a hypothetical scenario that you could go through, and it's helpful because you're doing two things. You're identifying what you're looking at is potentially wasteful, or is wasteful, depending on how you look at social media. But you're also giving yourself the root cause and a North Star goal potentially to work for, to remind you of why you're eliminating the waste in the first place. So that when you sit down on the couch and you pull out your phone, the thought is that you remember, oh, uh, I didn't want to miss out on the next opportunity. So before I open up social media, why don't I read a chapter or two of this book that I'm getting into? So that leads us into the last step, which is just execution. It's all well and good to identify the waste. It's all well and good to make sure that it is waste and understand the why behind it. But if you can't hold yourself accountable to execute, that you're right back to square one. So the first thing when you're executing is try to set some realistic goals for yourself. Set something, and maybe there's scaled goals where it's a little bit to start, but then you keep going. I mean, how many people have you talked to in life where they say, "Oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds by the summer," and you're like looking at your watch, and well, it's March, and not only is that not realistic, but it sounds super unhealthy. So maybe don't do that. So realistic goals are important. The next is embrace trial and error as you're going through this. It's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up because you can start to really do some self reflection and understand why. Why did I mess up there? What did I why did I scroll instead of read? And then maybe there's a deeper meaning there that I need to unpack. Um, that's also a time to say you're not alone, right? No free ads, but if you need a coach to talk through things, this is where someone like me can help. Or if you need a therapist, there's no shame in that. I'm a huge advocate for going to therapy. So that may be something you want to look into too. But the trial and error can really get your brain start thinking about things. And finally, don't forget that North Star. You went through that why exercise and you understand why you want to make a change or why the waste you're eliminating is important. Don't forget that. Remember that. Remember why you're doing it, and it'll keep you on track and it'll keep you motivated, because if you set realistic goals as you start to hit them, it's like a snowball. The momentum will keep you going forward. The last thing I'll say, and I know I just said it, but you really don't do anything alone. The more you can have a support network, you don't have to share it to the world, but the more you have a few close people that know what you're going through and know what you're trying to change, know what you're trying to eliminate, the more successful you're going to be, because it's hard to do things on your own. It's hard to do things without uh, a shoulder to lean on at times. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody has a great few weeks and a happy and safe holiday. And I look forward to seeing everybody again in July. My name's Mike Ergo, and I'll see you next time.